Excuse me, sir. Here we go. Hi Beans, today we're gonna be doing a highly requested video, my first ever tier video, and what better subject than matcha. So I'm going to go through episodes 1 to 4 of the taste test and just rank every single matcha that I've tried so far, and I might update this every couple of episodes just so that we can compare as we go. If you haven't already watched the taste test videos, I highly recommend watching those first because I go in depth with all of the matcha brands that I rate and review. And I also have the free matcha guide, which I'll link in the description box below, that has everything you need to know about matcha and even more things that you don't actually need to know, but there's a lot in there. So download that if you haven't already, it's free. We have 5 tiers today. We're starting at the bottom with avoid at all costs. These are matcha brands that I just don't recommend. Even if they're cheap and affordable, I would not recommend them. One more above is don't recommend, and these are brands that maybe are not quite as terrible flavor-wise or price-wise, but they're just still not the best. So maybe not ones to purchase if you have a choice. One more up is not the worst, not the best. These are brands that I would not buy, but if I had to drink it, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. One step up, we have Matcha Mommy approved. So these are things that I would actually spend my money on, brands that I buy, brands that I actually really enjoy. And the last tier is almost too good. And these are brands that are honestly a little bit too good for daily life. There are some matchas out there that are incredibly rich and meant for ceremonial use. And of course that means the price is also really up there. For that reason, we're gonna put it in the almost too good category. Kind of like you'd have to be a little silly to be spending on that for everyday use. These reviews will be definitely biased based on my own taste. So I know that my take will not resonate with everyone else's, and that's totally okay. And also I'm gonna be including a little bit of the brand side stuff too in my ranking. So marketing, founder, just all of that is really important, I think, in brands in general. So without further ado, let's begin. We're gonna start, and this is in very random order. We're gonna start with Itoen. Itoen, I remember being pleasantly surprised by despite the price and it not being necessarily a ceremonial grade powder. It is a Japanese brand, and I think based on the price and the fact that it wasn't all that terrible, I'm gonna put it in not the worst, but not the best. Like, I'd be happy to drink it. It's just not something that I would probably wanna spend my money on personally. Next we have Pique Tea. So Pique Tea. This is one that I actually don't love as much as other people do. I feel like the price is a little up there for what it is. And as much as their matcha is great and vibrant in color, it's also a lot more focused, I would say, on like the health benefits as a brand. I'm not crazy about the marketing, but not only that, I've definitely had better tasting matcha for the price. So for that reason, I'm gonna put it again in not the worst, not the best. I definitely think you could get much, much better for your money. So if you enjoy Pique, maybe watch some of my videos and I think you'll save yourself a lot of money. Next up we have Novitas. This one I tried very recently, and with Novitas, I think the biggest issue is that it's marketed as a superfood, but kind of like a supplement. And the price is definitely not as high, but you can tell a huge difference in the quality, color, and taste. This one was insanely bitter to the point where I actually thought it wouldn't even taste good in a smoothie or anything like that. So for that reason, I don't know if avoid at all costs is too dramatic, but I'm kind of feeling like it should be avoid at all costs. I'm gonna put it in avoid at all costs. Honestly, guys, if you are going for health benefits, the thing is too, you should be going for a higher quality matcha because the lower the quality, the lower nutrition, doesn't make sense at all to me. Next up, we have Goldie or Gold. This one I really didn't like, and they have really cute packaging and branding and everything, but this one is not marketed as a ceremonial grade. I just don't think it's worth buying because the price is still kind of up there for what it is, and I just wasn't a fan. It doesn't taste good to me. So I'm gonna put it in don't recommend. It's not the worst thing I've ever tried. It's just not one that I would recommend to anyone, really. I guess that makes sense, right? Don't recommend is the name of the category after all. Moving on, we have Matcha.com or Matchacari. I really love this brand because the team is really knowledgeable about matcha and they do a great job as far as like education goes. They have great resources on the website, so many varieties of matcha actually available, and they do a lot of testing, third-party testing. They offer organic options. Matcha.com, I do buy from time to time, so I'm gonna put that in Matcha Mommy approved because big fan of like the team. They're super sweet people. They're very respectful of the culture. They know what they're talking about, which is always a good thing. Yeah, Matcha Mommy approved. I have bought it in the past and I would buy it again. Next we have Jade Leaf Matcha. What I like about this one is that it's so accessible. So I know a lot of people really enjoy this brand, and I think what's cool about it is that you could find it in grocery stores, which is not the case for most of these matcha brands on this list. I feel like Jade Leaf Matcha has a little bit more of like this green tea flavor versus a true matcha flavor, meaning that it has more of like a brewed green tea, almost jasmine tea aftertaste, and it is quite bitter. So it's not my personal favorite. It could just also be like the region it's grown in, but it's not the worst either. It's still not one that I would recommend though. Like if I had to drink it, I would kind of be okay with it. So I'm leaning not the worst, not the best. But at the same time, it's not one that I ever recommend anyone buy. So, maybe I'll put it in not the worst, no. Maybe I'll put it in don't recommend. The only reason why I would ever recommend this is if it's like the only thing accessible and you're in a pinch and you need something from the grocery store. We'll put that little caveat in there. Next up, we have Matchaful. I love Matchaful. The founder is super sweet. They have a few different varieties, but even their kind of lowest tier of matcha is really, really good. And they have great cafes with amazing drinks. I love everything about this brand. So I'm gonna put this in Matcha Mommy approved. I have purchased from them in the past and I would again. They also have really cute cafes. If you're ever in New York, highly recommend stopping by their cafe. You will not be disappointed. In contrast, we have Chacha Matcha. Now, Chacha Matcha, I have posted a lot about on TikTok. And while their matcha itself isn't the worst, it's actually drinkable in my opinion. They're just a brand that I would never support because of some of the things that they have done. If you haven't already seen my video, you can watch it for more details. Based on that alone and the fact that the price is pretty up there for the quality that's like kind of mid, I'm gonna say avoid at all costs because I am biased, but it's okay because this is my video and these are my opinions. It's a storage issue. They've changed their matcha packaging to now be in sealable bags, but before that they were in clear jars. So even if you are spending that money, it's a little outrageous to be spending on a container that is going to basically break down the quality of your matcha over time. Yeah. Sorry, it's a no for me. Next up, we have Matcha Bar. Matcha Bar also had locations in the city or a location, and I don't think they do anymore. They're a little bit more focused on D2C, but Matcha Bar's matcha is not bad. I'm gonna actually say it's not the worst, not the best. Like I think it's a pretty good mid-tier matcha, mid-price, mid-flavor, mid-everything, and that's not a bad thing. It's just kind of like if you want something in the middle, you don't want to spend too much. It's a great place to start, and I actually think that that's where they want to position themselves. The founders are great. The two guys, I mean, they're really, really sweet, so this is nothing against them. It's just, I think they're aiming to be kind of like an everyday matcha. And so it's not the worst. I would happily drink it, but not something that I would like go out of my way to spend my money on personally. Next, we have Costco. The Costco one is budget. It's supposed to be budget, definitely. But I think what's really missing for me with that one is like the size of it is so massive and the quality is already quite low. So over time, or by the time you finish that bag, the quality is gonna be like to the ground. I think I'm gonna put that one at avoid at all costs because I think the Itoen price is comparable actually and so much better for like the same price and kind of like tier of matcha. Yeah, that one's avoid at all costs though. Rishi Tea is sold at Erewhon. Rishi Tea, I was actually pleasantly surprised by. This is one that I wouldn't personally buy, but I would actually maybe recommend it if you wanted something pretty decent in flavor and quality's there. I feel like I remember the price being like $18, something really affordable like that, and it wasn't terrible at all. So I'm gonna say not the worst, not the best, very mid-tier. Kettle Tea. So Kettle is a brand that I really love. Founder super great, love Zach, and the team's super sweet. They have great locations in New York and in Brooklyn, so I would definitely check it out if you're in New York also. Probably one of like the better matchas that I could recommend and one of the best cafes too. They also have a few different varieties, but I'm just judging based off like the one that they serve in their cafes and the one that I purchased for this video. I'm gonna say Matcha Mommy approved because I would happily buy from Kettle anytime, and I have in the past. I would again. They're great. Like you really can't go wrong with Kettle, even if you don't know which blend to buy. Like they're all pretty great. Next, we're gonna do Chamberlain Coffee. So they are a coffee brand, which I feel like tells me a lot to start with. And honestly, my advice in the video was for them to just stick to the coffee because I think the matcha they're going for, I don't know if I should say this on video, but I found their matcha source and supplier. So they're just white labeling matcha, allegedly, in my opinion. And it's kind of just like, okay, it's very mid. It's not something that I would spend my money on personally. It's got a pretty strong bitter aftertaste, but the price it's not cheap, I'll say that. So I'm gonna put it in like not the worst, but not the best. I did end up finishing the tin that I bought. It wasn't the best. So stick to the coffee. If you like coffee, I think the coffee's good. Tenzo. So Tenzo, I kind of want to say avoid at all costs. I had a lot of problems with like their website to begin with. I found it to be very spammy marketing wise. Like somehow you end up only being able to purchase their subscription, and it was so difficult for me to just buy one. Above all, I think what really struck me about Tenzo is like the flavor was so terrible, and the price wasn't cheap either. So I couldn't imagine charging that much for like something that tasted so terrible. That was not good. Did not like that. Next is Magic Hour. Magic Hour, I think, was like really all about the branding more than anything. I think the price was quite up there for the quantity that we got. And so for that reason, I mean, it wasn't bad taste-wise. So I'm gonna go not the worst, but not the best, but I'm tempted to go not recommend. No, it's gonna be not the worst, but not the best. This one, it's really all about the marketing. The matcha, it's mid at best, but it's not terrible. And if I had to drink it, I wouldn't be upset. So we're gonna go not the worst, not the best. Nekohama. This one is one that I really like. Love that it's Asian co-founded, and they really do an amazing job. The only thing I'll say about their matcha is that I find it to be quite highly priced. You can find the equivalent as far as flavor and quality for a lower price, but that being said, it's definitely matcha mommy approved. This one is one that I would buy again, especially if I was like willing to shell out a little bit more. But like I said, you can find options that are equally as good for a little bit less. So just keep that in mind. Breakaway Matcha. I love their matcha, but I'm gonna say that theirs is kind of like maybe almost too good. I feel like it's like up there because they sell a lot of these like flight gift sets and you don't end up actually getting that much matcha. So I think for the tasting experience, if you're really into matcha, I'm gonna put it at like almost too good, which basically means buy it if like you're spending for a special occasion. But aside from that, I don't know that you like need to drink their matcha for everyday use, if that makes sense. I really liked it though. I need to actually finish that one and work on it. Next up, we have Thrive Market. Unfortunately, even though this is one of the more affordable ones, this one's gonna be an avoid at all costs for me because I think if you are gonna make one that's more affordable, it should still taste pretty good. This one for me had an insanely bitter taste. So if you watch the video, I think I was just kind of like shocked by how bitter it was. And I don't think it's a great drinking experience. So for that reason, I'm gonna put it in avoid at all costs. But I will mention it was much better than Costco's, Novitas, and Tenzo's matcha. So it's probably like the best of the bunch down there right now. Moving on to Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's. I had the suspicion that Trader Joe's and Jade Leaf matcha were the same white labeled brand, but I don't know. You know what, maybe I need to move Jade Leaf because it's pretty much the same product and Trader Joe's is like not the worst, but not the best. Okay, it's not one that I would recommend, but I wouldn't like be upset if I had to drink it, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna put it in don't recommend. Great if you need something that's like an emergency option because you can find them at literally any Trader Joe's stores, but also they are in single serving packets, so that's important to keep in mind. Yeah, I think that's a good spot for it. We have Rocky's Matcha next. Rocky's Matcha is, I think this one's gonna be in the almost too good category because the price is really up there, and I mentioned this in my video, it's a single cultivar matcha, which basically means that the matcha is sourced from one farm specifically, one harvest. It's not blended or mixed with any other like older matchas or different matchas. It's very pure in that sense, and that obviously makes the price go up, the quality goes up too. And I believe he actually just released another single cultivar variety, but I'm gonna put this one in almost too good because it is up there in price for the quantity that you get, but you won't be disappointed if you do buy it. So reserve that for like a special occasion or if you're craving some really, really good matcha and you're willing to spend a little bit more for the experience. All right, we are almost to the end of our list. We're gonna go with Ippodo next. Ippodo I speak so highly of. Honestly, this one can go in the Matcha Mommy approved. I don't think the prices are outrageous. What I love about them is they have so many varieties, and similar to Matchaful, even like the lowest tier of quality that they offer is really quite tasty. They know their stuff. This brand, you've heard me say it a million times, but this is a Japanese family-owned brand, 300 years old, super knowledgeable when it comes to tea and matcha specifically, and their shit's really good. That's all I have to say. This is the brand that I recommend to everyone. Even if you're starting out, I recommend some of like the lower tier matcha blends that they have available. So this is gonna go in Matcha Mommy approved, but if we're talking about their specific blends, they have a Kanza and an Umon blend, which I would put in the almost too good varieties. So they do offer blends that are like almost too good, but you don't have to buy them, you know? You can just stick with just any that fits in your budget, you will be happy with. Junbi is an interesting one because I know that their cafe, they offer drinks that are like mixed matcha drinks, and I think when you have it like that, it would be pretty good. I just feel like this is the type of matcha that requires sweetener, flavors, like stuff to kind of cover it up because I wasn't a fan of the flavor itself. But that being said, it wasn't awful. I just think I would kind of put this in the don't recommend category because it's not one that comes to mind right away if someone were to ask me. But that being said, like if you do drink it, it's not the worst ever. Yeah, like mix it with something, it's not the worst. Just, I don't think it should be your go-to if you're thinking about trying matcha. Kremoto Matcha, this one is Zane and Heath's company. And again, this is a coffee brand to begin with. I don't think they actually know a lot about matcha, so, you know, I can't really fault them for thinking that their matcha is really great. I don't think it's the worst, but I feel like it was really bitter is what I remember. And the price is quite up there as well. This is gonna be a, it's not avoid at all costs, it's not terrible. This is gonna be a don't recommend for me. Again, I think this is the type where you might need to add some cinnamon, some flavors to like cover it up a little bit, but their coffee, I think. You like their coffee, right? Yeah. So from the production team, we're hearing that the coffee is pretty decent. So I would say the same thing as I would with Chamberlain Coffee, like stick to the coffee, you know? If a brand is something coffee and they're selling matcha, don't expect too much from them, you know? Symbiotica. This one is stupid expensive for how bad it tasted. I'm sorry. Like, I saw so many influencers promoting this one, which made me angry because I was like, you guys are lying, it's not good. Color, quality, yeah, it's like kind of up there. Would I drink it again? I don't think so. I think this one was so bitter. I'm gonna put it in, you know what? I'm actually gonna put this in avoid at all costs because it tastes so bad and it's crazy expensive. Don't do it to yourself. Don't buy this one. Say no to Symbiotica. Sorry guys. Last but not least, we have Encha. I actually got a ton of requests for this one to be tried, and this one was kind of like super bitter. I think doesn't really taste great with milk, surprisingly, because the flavor gets drowned out because it's not very flavorful or potent. And so for that reason, I think I'm kind of like torn between not the worst, not the best, and the tier below it, don't recommend, because I feel like for some people it will do the trick, but for me personally, it's not one that I would recommend to people. And so I think I'm gonna stick with don't recommend. I feel very, not even indifferent. Yeah, I feel indifferent about it. Like all these brands I feel pretty indifferent about. It's not the lowest tier, but it's definitely not, yeah. All right, so this is the final ranking. The distribution is pretty crazy. Most of them are kind of like very mid, and the ones that I approve of is very limited, but that list never really changes, to be honest. At the very top, we have Breakaway Matcha and Rocky's Matcha that are almost too good. Matchaful, Matchacom, and Ippodo tea also offer blends that I would categorize as almost too good, just like really expensive, but also really fucking good. Matcha Mommy approved. This is funny to me because these are the brands that I always recommend people whenever I get asked on TikTok. We have got Matcha.com or Matchacari, Matchaful, Kettle, Nekohama, and Ippodo, so checks out. Not the worst, not the best, we have Itoen, which is kind of the more surprising one to be in that category, alongside Pique, Matcha Bar, Rishi, Chamberlain Coffee, and Magic Hour. So again, these are brands that I guess I would drink, but I would definitely not spend my money on and go out of my way to buy. Then we have Don't Recommend, Gold or Goldie, Jade Leaf Matcha, Trader Joe's, Jimby, Cremota, and Encha. Again, these are like not the worst at all by any means, but these are just not ones that I would ever suggest to someone to buy. And last but not least, avoid at all costs, we've got Novitas, Chacha Matcha, Costco, Tenzo, Thrive, and Symbiotica. Symbiotica is really a shocker. Don't let the color fool you because the color is beautiful, but I'm telling you, that shit sucks. Okay, well this was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the rankings. Let me know what you guys thought, if you agree with my rankings or if your tier list would look very different. Again, these are just my opinions. Don't let what I say influence you too much. At the end of the day, what's most important is that you enjoy the matcha, and also it's something that isn't gonna like break the bank and put you in debt. That's very important, okay? For more information, don't forget to check out the free matcha guide. I'll link that below, and we'll have a new taste test video coming out soon. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and let me know what you wanna see next in the matcha world below. Bye!